So today we're going to talk about a crash course in the developmental psychology of teenagers. So what does make them tick? Well, most people refer to this particular generation as Generation Y for fairly obvious reasons. But what we have to ask ourselves as parents and teachers and caregivers is, are they really impossible to live with? How can we better understand them? Well, a couple of quotes that I've received over the years from parents show how exasperating these kids can be. My favourite ones of all time was one particular parent who wrote to me, "If you stand close enough to Angela, you can hear the ocean." And I think that really does sum up how frustrating they can be. Another really great one was, "Some of my children drink from the fountain of knowledge. Phoebe only gargles." And I think, again, that can be very, very common. And another one, "At times, I think my son is depriving a village somewhere of an idiot." Again, clear frustration. But the best one of all time, without a doubt, "It's hard to believe she beat out a million other sperm." So, what can we do to get over this frustration? Well, there are lots of books that I've written, there are lots of articles, but this is the first time that I've ever actually talked directly to parents about helping them understand their kids. It's not at all surprising to me that at times many parents end up feeling a little bit like this dog. They're just waiting for a disaster to happen, but hoping that they can survive and stave off the disaster for as long as possible. So I think one of the things that we need to talk about is the teenage brain. And what we know about teenagers is fascinating. We know now that they have 100 billion brain cells and 1 trillion connections. But what isn't commonly understood by a lot of adults is that these brain cells aren't all wired up yet. In fact, they won't be wired up if they're a girl till they're 23 years of age, and they won't be wired up if they're a boy for a good 5 years after that. So what we have to understand is that adolescence now is an extended period of vulnerability. It starts earlier than ever before and it ends later. There are reports of kids as young as 7 hitting puberty, and of course we now know that the teenage brain is only fully developed in the late 20s. So we've got 3 types of adolescence, and in order to understand your teenager, you really do have to understand which flavour you're dealing with at the moment. So the first is early adolescence, and that's obviously when the young person hits puberty and can be anywhere between now roughly 10 to 14 years of age. And at this time, the overwhelming question that the early adolescent is asking is essentially, am I normal? So everything that adults do for your early adolescent should be really about reassuring them of their normality. So even if they've got 2 heads, you say, for a 2-headed kid, you're pretty normal. So early adolescence is also when a lot of neurological activity takes place. And it's almost as if a neurological veil is lifted. And for the very first time, these kids see you through adult eyes. And their response can very often be, "Oh my God, look what I've got for parents." Maybe 1 or 2 clearly stupid people sent by God from planet boring just to make my life awful. And therefore, you have to take a little bit of time when you're dealing with these kids to understand where they're coming from. They thought you were perfect, now they realise you're not, and that can be a little bit of a shock. The next phase, middle adolescence, is where they suddenly develop an intense interest in their friends. At no other time in your life is the desire to be with your friends so strong. And during this time, many parents will discover a couple of things. 1, these young people have an incredible sensitivity to control. So the watchword in dealing with your middle adolescence, say 14 right through to about 18, is absolutely around negotiating and compromise. You don't have to win, and your life will be much easier if you go for compromise. At no other time in their life is their desire to be with their friends as strong. So therefore, friends are very, very important. Who your kids hang out with is terribly, terribly much your business. So we want them to be hanging out with kids who are pro-social, kids who have a wide range of interests, things like art, music, dance, drama, sport. We want them busy. The worst enemy of a middle adolescent, trust me, is boredom. So you want to keep your kids engaged in something. And in late adolescence, it's a whole new ball game. Suddenly they realise that they need you. They need your house, your car, your money, your food, your fridge, and therefore relationships can be based much more on mutual affection and respect. So, recapping, early adolescence, they're asking really, am I normal? Middle adolescence, they're asking, well, who am I? And late adolescence, they're asking where I'm going. Now, you have to think about this as a parent. What stage of child are you dealing with, and are they feeling safe and valued and listened to along the journey? This is incredibly important because it is the strength of the bond between you and them that determines how much health risk-taking behaviour they'll take later on.